Welcome again, Mihir, and congratulations for once again, one final time in public for winning the latest award that you won, Sahitya Akademi Yuva Puraskar. Uh, I think we should start off on that note right away because that's one curiosity I think everybody has. Like, it's not so much how to win an award. Of course, you have to write a good book.
So, Sahitya Akademi Yuva Puraskar invites applications. So they invite application submissions. So they invite submissions, and when they advertise that we are accepting submissions for the 2022 Yuva Puraskar, I just told my publisher, Speaking Tiger, that please send my book to this prize. Usually authors do have a kind of say in which awards their books can go to, and it's negotiated before the book is published. I didn't ask for any other awards, but I had told Speaking Tiger that this is one place that I would like personally to send the book. And when it happened, then they sent it. It was a wait of around 6 to 7 months. So I remember it in December 2021, the book was sent, and the results were announced on August 24th, 2022. Yes. So what happens is that they constitute a jury, and it has 2 literature professors. So you can consider them as critics, and it has 1 reputed writer. So these 3 people constitute a jury, and they award in 24 languages of India, and every language has these jury members, 3 jury members for each language. So on the day when the award is announced, the shortlist, so to say, also comes out on the same day. So we also get to know that what other books were in consideration for the award. So it's quite nice because it's kind of surprising. Yes, you don't even know who are the jury members. The jury members are also, the names are released on the same day when the awards are announced. So all you know is that your book has gone, and if it wins, then you get to know about it on that day. When it wins, Sahitya Academy gives you a call. So I got a call, and then the very kind lady told me that you have won the award. And because I had to go to IIT to mark my attendance, so I told her, thank you ma'am, and I'm just rushing to campus. And then of course I got to know that there's a very nice book called No Man's Land. It's by Abhishek Saha, and it deals with the NRC issue. So that book was also in the running. So I was very happy to see my friend's book too. I didn't know that he had also sent the book for the award. So it was kind of nice to see that all the books that had been shortlisted, to read the jury members' name. G.J.V. Prasad from JNU, there was one professor from Northeastern Hill University, and there was Mitra Fukan, the writer. So these were the jury members for the English language. I will disagree with your feeling. The book is very faithful to the tag of non-fiction. So there are no fictional elements there. What it does, where it differs, is poeticization of certain things which have happened. So it's tell the truth but tell it slant, So it's that kind of storytelling which happens in this book. Poetry also does not necessarily have to be fictitious. Lyrical poems, they can take inspiration, or they can be about human conditions. They can be conditions of the poet who is writing the poems. But as we all learned in today's workshop, poetry is a bit discursive. It tries to not be so direct, but it tries to kind of play some kind of seduction game with you. So I think as a poet, what I tried to infuse with the non-fiction form was this play of poetry. But the facts are correct, the events all happened, and the journeys that were undertaken were correct.
You know, the way you have described space, because I mean, I realized that the workshop that you had taken in the festival was quite directly from, like, informed by your own experience of writing
Yes.
about this. So, I mean, for me, what is interesting is you've done a lot of this archival work, right? And you've read lots of books also, apart from traveling and seeing. So, how did you balance that when there is sometimes a reference to archival work you've done? I've read this book, that book, but also you want to talk about some sense of personal discovery of this space.
What happens with small towns is that they tend to exist as ahistorical places, by which I mean that there are certain judgments that tend to be associated with them. People say that, okay, it's a small town, nothing happens here, right? Because everything is supposed to happen in the metropolis. So Delhi is where everything happens, Bombay is where things happen, but not so much in, for example, Muzaffarpur in Bihar or Hazaribagh in Jharkhand. There is a kind of stillness, a kind of sense that time has slowed down, that nothing moves. But this is not correct. When I was leaving Delhi, when I was leaving Hazaribagh for Delhi, this was 2009, the 2-lane highway that connected Hazaribagh to Ranchi, that was in the process of being widened into 4-lane highway. Just 2-3 years later, the first railway train to proper Hazaribagh town station started plying. Domino's started opening up, and today even Zomato and Swiggy have entered Hazaribagh. So, and yet we kind of fall into this trap of perceiving our small towns as timeless places, as places of nostalgia, right? So the first job as an archivist was to understand how this nostalgia is made to function, and second, to critique this nostalgia. And you can critique this nostalgia by uncovering or unearthing, in a very metaphorical sense, discovering certain lost literatures which are no longer present in the current consciousness of the town. For example, the Samuel Solomon poem, Garden at Hazaribagh, no one knows about it. He was the DC, Deputy Commissioner of Hazaribagh in 1946, and it only happened through a chance encounter that I was in British Library, London, and I was looking up certain records on Hazaribagh when the result also showed Garden at Hazaribagh. So I went to inquire for it, and it's this little book, you know, just this little book, and it's a lovely book of a lovely poem, and he goes on to explain that how lovely his garden was. And there's also a tinge of sadness that Solomon knew that his time in India is perhaps over, and that India would soon be independent, and that it was also time for him to leave Hazaribagh. So that question which he asked, that will this loveliness stay after we are gone, and then he also answers that yes, it will stay. These kinds of literature, it wasn't available to us, and I said this at a different talk, that we didn't have the William Dalrymples or the historians telling us that okay, these things had happened in Hazaribagh. So whatever knowledge was supposed to be pieced together, it happened through combining stray resources, certain letters, some administrative writing, and then just a lot of connecting the dots, and then to construct a narrative. So that's how the archive happened. The other was the empirical thing, which happened to me. So archival research, empirical research, what I feel, how my body reacts, what kinds of sensations or pleasures these places have given to me. So combining archive with empiricism That has been like, I think, the driving force or the model for this entire book.
Especially I think when you talk about Solomon's nostalgia is that at least during the British era it seems like the administration worked with a certain sensitivity about nature, and in some sense they even were responsible for the construction of certain natural beauties which we imagine in Hazaribagh are natural, but they were actually constructed. For example, you talk about the lakes of Hazaribagh and how one of the, is it Colonel Rattray, right? How he was responsible for ensuring that these artificial streams were sort of directed towards filling up the lakes over ages. So is that, because that is something, is that a big broad comment that you can make? Because I mean something that occurs to us also, because when we were discussing the transformation of Bangalore, there is this discussion about how Bangalore was not actually a garden city always. It was curated into a garden city, and then we think that this garden city was always there and it's sort of receding away and getting eroded. So in that sense, even there is this certain nostalgia for the colonial sensitivity to nature. But of course you have also talked about colonial violence and what they use, all that.
I don't shy away from calling out violence when there's needed, but certain facts do remain that the lakes were constructed by the British, but the labor that went into construction was native. So it weren't the European people who were coming in with their axes and their shovels and digging the earth. They might be managing the entire project, but the people who were doing the actual digging, they were Indians, right? So the labor that has gone into creation of these lakes, it's very Indian labor. Captain Thomas Rattray is different, but the person who engineered the lakes in that manner was Dr. John Martin Coates, and he came to Hazaribagh as a jail superintendent of this jail that was there. Just a quick history. Between 1830s till 1855, there were a series of tribal uprisings that happened in what is presently called Jharkhand. And during those uprisings, multiple and many numbers and numbers of native tribal people were arrested, right? Now, where should we keep these arrested people, right? We need jails. So the construction of jails started very close to where I have lived pretty much my whole life in Hazaribagh. Now, the raw material for construction of the jail was sourced from the earth nearby. So what it created were 3 large craters, so that someone would come and get the whatever you need, the soil, the rocks and everything from the earth. And in the end you would have 1 crater, then the jail had to be expanded, then you would have 2nd crater, then another wing had to be attached, you would have 3rd crater. So in the end you have 3 craters, and then this surgeon, this Dr. John Martin Coates, he arrives as the jail superintendent. He looks at these craters and he realizes that these craters are topographically located in a zone where all the stray streams which would be activated during monsoon, if they were to be fashioned in a way that they could empty their water into these craters, then we would have lakes. So he designed it purposely so that the first crater would fill first, then the overflow would fill the 2nd crater, and that overflow will fill the 3rd crater. Now over time, just as we say natural beauty, the lakes are quite expansive, and we assemble there as denizens of Hazaribagh. We assemble there to watch the sunrise and the sunset, and it's been more than 150 years. So it has acquired aquatic life also. So migrant birds come and just nest there for a few months. There's boating also happening. So it's a very lively space. And somehow this artificial man-made lakes, they came in to stand for what we consider natural beauty, right? So now on Instagram, people would go to the lake, take a photo with the water behind, and kissed by nature. Such kind of captions would be there. But what is interesting is that transformation of spaces, right? So earlier, what was considered wilderness, unutilized space, of course, that unutilized space was utilized in order to take out the raw material for construction of the jail. And then that gaping wounds on the surface of the earth, those wounds were filled by water. And so we have a new kind of space that is born. So I'm interested in these kinds of changes. With respect to Hazaribagh was also the city of 1,000 gardens, not very unlike Bangalore. And some element of pastoralization of the wild by the British, of course it is there, and yes, it did create a certain aesthetic, but a deeper analysis of course will complicate these things, that aesthetic at the cost of what, aesthetic at, if there is nostalgia for a specific kind of past, then by saying that it is only in the past that Bangalore is beautiful, or it is only in the past that Hazaribagh was beautiful, it's an easy way to wash our hands off responsibility. Then we are free to condemn beauty to the past and say that now to Hazaribagh or Bangalore has changed to such a degree that it cannot be beautiful. So if we put beauty in the domain of nostalgia, then it prohibits us, or it does not allow us to take responsibility for its survival. Then we can simply say कि urbanization हो रहा है, it's you know how it is, we need space, we need this, that. So in the creative writing workshop, I was talking about the clash of dwellings, that how one person who imagines a certain kind of space, and the other person might imagine that same place as a different space. And if the other person has the resources and the money to do some construction, then the other person will go ahead and do it. Meanwhile, the first person will be criticizing. So when we bemoan the loss of that garden, I think it's like the clash of two dwellings. First is on the disappearance, and still it survives through works like this, which keeps that tradition alive in whatever way. And then of course there is the contemporary onslaught of urbanization over our pastoral spaces.